Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are going to be heading to the Western Conference in the Pacific Division, taking a look at one of the Western Alberta teams. We're heading out to Calgary today as we continue our season preview videos. Let me know down below, what do you guys think of the Calgary Flames? Do you think this is a playoff team? Do you think they missed the playoffs? I'd love to know your guys' thoughts down below. So, let's get right into it. So, we have a couple of Calgary Flames fans here on the channel, and this is one that, to be honest with you, going to be kind of a depressing video because I don't have much faith in the Calgary Flames this season. There is positives for this team, but the reality is, looking at the potential results and how many wins they're going to have and their potential for making the playoffs this year is not extremely high. So let's get right into the roster. So you've got Jonathan Huberdeau, Backlund, Coleman, Mantha, Sarangovic, and Zary as your top six. Mantha comes into this team in the offseason, looking to revitalize his career in the twilight of his career. I think that's a good pickup for them. He adds a little bit of size to that top six. I think that's a good move. And we're going to see the continued development of a guy like Connor Zary, who I think is a really good player there. Same thing for Sarangovic. I think that was a great pickup for them from the New Jersey Devils. It's going to be more development from those types of players. Postbill and Kuzmenko, love those guys in the roster. I think those are more players for this team that are going to be a net benefit for this team overall. Looking at the bottom six, a bit of a newer bottom six, adding guys like Ryan Lomberg, Kevin Rooney, and Walker Duehr. All those guys coming from Florida and Minnesota. So I think overall, I think the Flames did a pretty good job there. And there's the potential for guys like maybe Matt Coronado to make the roster out of camp. It seems a little bit unlikely, but you never really know. One of the key departures up front really was Andrew Mangiapane, but you know, yeah, 1-for-1 Mantha for Mangiapane isn't a good trade, but then you look at the development of some of the younger players like we talked about with Postbill and Zary and Kuzmenko, they might be able to offset that. I think they'll be okay. And considering Mangiapane didn't have a great season last year with the Flames, it makes sense that this is something that was going to inevitably happen. Defense, we've got Uyghur and Miromanov on the top pair. Miromanov, a lot of talk about him, so a lot of people are excited to see what he could potentially be. This is a pretty beefy blue line. You've got Uyghur there. Kevin Ball on the second pair with Rasmus Andersson. I like that 1-2 punch with kind of the offense and defensive-minded guys pairing up. Jake Bean and Braden Packel, or Braden Packel. I think it's Packel. Sorry, guys. Packel did not sound right. Braden Packel playing with Jake Bean. Kind of an unproven third pairing there, but developing, right? Especially with Braden Packel. A lot of people have talked highly about him and him kind of fitting the DNA of that Calgary Flames blue line. So we'll see if he's able to live up to that. Goaltending, you've got Dan Vladar and Dustin Wolf. So Dustin Wolf, you know, he had a pretty good season last year, but on a really bad Calgary Flames team, it's kind of hard to predict where he really is right now. And you know, I hope things go well for him. He's a great goaltender. They traded out Markey, so we'll see how things go in terms of the Calgary Flames in between the pipes, but I think they're going to be okay with Dustin Wolf. You know, I'm really interested to see what happens this year with some of the veterans. You know, are we going to see a Kadri or a Huberdeau trade at the deadline? That's going to be a pretty important indicator for the future of the Calgary Flames. What can they get for those guys? What is the perceived value of those guys right now? It's probably not too high. They had a rough season last year. You know, in all honesty, you know, buckle up for a long season in Calgary. I think this is a team that's going to finish bottom 5 in the NHL standings. You know, they really weren't great on special teams last season. I don't expect that to really improve this season. You know, you look at the roster, I mean, there's promise to this team. There is reason to believe for the Calgary Flames. This is unfortunately, a team that they tried to build into a contender that just really there wasn't the core there. They really thought that Kadri and Huberdeau were going to really kind of fix the issues, and it really didn't. You know, it basically replaced Tkachuk and Gaudreau, and they weren't able to produce even at those levels. So for the Calgary Flames, you're hoping for a good season for Dustin Wolf. Postbill, Zary, Sarangovic, you're hoping for great seasons from them. You almost don't want to see the young guys like Coronado. You probably want them to develop with the Wranglers and kind of find their game there and not really rush them to the NHL this year. The only reason I could see those guys consistently being in the lineup for the Flames if something really, I'm talking about shit hits the fan for the Calgary Flames and they need to come into the lineup because they don't have enough depth, or you see a situation where it's the end of the season and they just want to see what they have with Coronato at the NHL level. And I do fully expect them to do that at the end of the season because we did see a little bit of Coronato even at the end of last season. So we'll probably see something like that. Defense, same thing. I think there's a lot to like about Miromanov and Paquel. But again, I'm kind of torn. I could see a situation where if they could, I could see them even trading guys like Weegar or Anderson on this team. Like, I could see a full mass destruction of the Calgary Flames if the right trade opportunity arises. Listen, there's good value for guys like Rasmus Anderson and Weegar. They are good defensemen. Maybe Weegar's a bit overpaid, but I think they could find a trade partner for Weegar. There is going to be a market out there if he has a decent season this year. And that's kind of the other thing. If I'm the Flames, hope for the best for this team, especially early on, because the perception of these guys, if Huberdeau and Kadri did what they did last year and really struggled out of the gate, the perception of those guys next season is going to be there isn't much value there, they're overpaid, and nobody's going to want to trade for them. And that's the last thing that the Calgary Flames need for those types of players right now. In all honesty, I think looking at their potential record, I definitely have them missing the playoffs. I was a little bit more optimistic in my season preview for these guys, but the reality is, I could legitimately see them finishing as, worst in the NHL. And I hate to even say that, but I think right now, with where things are at in Calgary, there's, you have a young goaltender that's developing his first full NHL season. They are sending Dustin Wolf to the Wolves, quite literally. I don't think it's going to be great for his development. I don't think it's going to... This is just... As much as there's good things on this team, I just don't see it meshing well. So, with that said, I actually have the Calgary Flames finishing dead last in the NHL standings in my most recent reports here. Even lower than the San Jose Sharks. I have the Calgary Flames finishing next season with 69 points, dead last in the National Hockey League. That's behind Chicago, San Jose, Montreal. It's going to be a rough season for the Calgary Flames. And, I think with that Pacific Division in particular getting better, I just think there's going to be a huge gap between teams like Calgary and San Jose and basically the other 6 teams in that Pacific Division. So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Flames? Do you think they make the playoffs? Do you think they miss the playoffs? I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again next time.